Let's go, everyone. We are halfway through Cybersecurity Awareness Month and halfway through our CTF. And we had to bring the crew together, the minds behind this entire game, to talk about the halfway point. There's been a lot of action so far. There's been a lot happening. So we thought that this would be a perfect time to dip into the current state of the CTF, a little bit behind the scenes, and also maybe a teaser or two of what people have to look forward to. I'm Chris Cochran. I'm the advisory CISO and chief evangelist at Huntress, and I'm going to be your moderator for this discussion today. And we're going to take it around the horn. John, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much. And hey, huge special thank you to everyone tuning in and letting us banter for a little bit. But look, hey, hi, hello. My name is John Hammond. I'm a principal security researcher here at Huntress. And hey, been having a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of stress. Hey, making this game and having the capture the flag, hopefully the best we can go off without a hitch. But super, super happy to chat about it and excited to get into some of the gory details for this.
Absolutely. It's a labor of love. What about you, Alex? Introduce yourself for the audience out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Alex. I'm Senior Software Engineering Manager over at Huntress. I've been doing this stuff for fun for about, I don't know, how old am I now? Anyway, that long. It's been a lot of fun just hacking around and programming as much as I can. And yeah, having fun doing this.
Fantastic. And you, Matt?
Hello, gamers, CTF gamers. My name is Matt Kiley. I am now a principal security research at Huntress. You may know me as Husky Hacks. Thank you, John. It's good to be here. I would also like to take a moment to respond to the rumors that we had booked Miguel, Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, for the halftime show. Those are not true. Who keeps making up those rumors? I don't know where you got that idea. We don't even have a musical guest, but we are going to have fun today. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Hey, that's how these internet rumors get spread around. But let's get right to it. Everyone, wherever you're watching from today, drop it into the chat. We would love to see where you're calling in from and where you represent. Let's get cracking. You know, there's been a lot of activity. There are a lot of people playing. I'd love to hear some of the high-level stats that we've seen so far for the CTF.
Cool. And I can help get some of the numbers and the analytics out and about. I do have over up on my screen a little bit of the fun, hey, behind the scenes of the Capture the Flag platform. And for folks that don't know, look, this is like flat vanilla stock CTFD with a little bit of tweaks and modifications. But I'm sure, hey, anyone in the Capture the Flag scene or culture and community is pretty familiar with that CTF in a can open source framework for a lot of capture the flag technologies. But this is pretty awesome to see because look, we have about like over 8,000 users registered, which is kind of wild. 3,600 different teams, and please don't make fun of me about my one IP address.
What's up with that, John?
Load balancer problems, am I right?
Dreaded load balancer.
Hey, these are always really fun because we do get to dig into the stuff that maybe we can bring forward for the future if we do a Huntress CTF 2.0, a little cybersecurity awareness month 2024. I don't know, sprinkling the idea, but it is really fun to see where we can improve and keep the party going. But it's wild. We have a couple challenges already out on the board. And if folks aren't familiar with the gimmick, hey, we've been trying to release challenges every single day of the month. There are still a whole lot in the can, though, because look, it's only October 16th. We're about halfway through the month, and there's still more to do. But it's wild to see all of the crazy, insane, incredible numbers of folks diving in, and especially how many of these 3,600 teams have solved what and how much. You can kind of see in this graph here a little bit of the cutoff of folks that, hey, maybe tinker and play with a couple challenges, and maybe some that are really, really loving it and passionate and want to keep solving every single day. So they'll keep pushing the new challenges. Very, very cool to see the drop off, and especially cool to see, look, there is almost like 40,000 submissions that are correct.
Wow.
And
So cool.
What is that? Maybe almost another 30,000 for wrong. So I don't know. We could do that math. We could add those numbers, but is that 75,000? Is that 80,000 actual trying to, hey, submit a token, submit a flag, and participate in the game? So a lot of fun here. We're having a blast. I hope you all are. And there's more to come.
That is outstanding from each and every one of you. What has been the most surprising thing so far? Maybe it was an event, maybe it was a specific situation of the CTF. Maybe it's just the fact that it's so popular. But let's start with you, Alex. What would you say has been the most surprising thing of the journey so far?
I think it's going to have to be the "I won't let you down" challenge and how quickly that spiraled out of control. I built a Golang application, and anyone who knows Golang knows that it's one of the fastest languages. It's not the fastest, obviously. There's C and others out there, but it's a pretty fast language, right? So using it as a web server to me was like, I should do this because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be scanning my server, seeing what's on there, trying to interact with it really quickly. Thought it was a wonderful idea. And it was, because if you look at all my requests, they were there and completed in like 10 nanoseconds, basically. It was just super fast. Everything was loaded in memory. And I was like, cool, there's no way this is going to go wrong. And then like 20 minutes into it, something went wrong, which is apparently Vulture, the hosting company, couldn't handle the amount of traffic coming in. So my application was responding quickly with all the 404s that the top of a rack got confused, and it said like, oh, okay, I just can't handle this. And it said, I'm not going to respond. So I had to start artificially creating a delay on responses. So those who are running Dirbuster or, Burp Suite for that matter, to slow it down. So that way they didn't just keep getting tons of 404s coming back, and it slowed it down to actually respond. So I think it was just kind of like how quickly things spiraled out of control there was what surprised me the most, because no matter how good you plan, it can blow up at the very end of it too.
Jeez,
this whole experience has been a learning, just a steady drip of lessons learned. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, John, this is really like one of the first CTFs that is a whole month. In other words, challenges are released every single day. Most of the time, for those maybe unfamiliar with the CTF construct, a CTF goes up for about 24 to 48 hours. All of the challenges are dropped at the same time. Everybody has access to them all at the same time. And so to do this one a day, every day for a month is a marathon, and we're learning how to run a marathon right now while we're already in the middle of the marathon, which has been a lot of fun, I think.
And what would be your most surprising moment there, Matt?
So I think from the content creator or the challenge creator's perspective, one of my favorite things and most surprising things was the mismatch between how I figured my challenges would be solved and how people are actually solving them. And so it's, a good challenge is like good in any kind of good game design, puzzle design. You should have all of the pieces right in front of you, and it's up to you to either learn what you need to learn to put them together, or if you already know that, you can immediately put them right together. And so I tried to design all of my challenges so that when the player gets the pieces, they either can see it pretty clearly and go, I think I have an inkling about how I need to solve this, and then they have to just research, or maybe they're already familiar with it. In that case, they go right for it. But there are some instances where the players are coming up with completely new, innovative solutions to these challenges. And I get to one of my favorite things is I get to watch the Discord when my challenges get dropped and watch people kind of like intuit and figure out and like learn on the fly how to solve these the correct way. And then other people are, maybe I should say the intended way. And then other players are saying, oh, wait, that's not exactly what I saw. I kind of looked at it like this. People aren't really giving away the answers in chat, but that you can kind of intuit what they're meaning by that. That has been so much fun and so surprising to watch players actually go after those challenges in innovative ways.
Yeah. How do folks have conversations around the different challenges without necessarily giving away too much?
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a little bit of a dance. And, per the rules of the Discord, you're not supposed to post flags. You're not supposed to really give away the challenge solutions in explicit text. But a lot of the time, people are saying, hey, I'm kind of stuck here in the Discord. And then somebody might chime in and give them a nice little cryptic hint, right? Or maybe they, oh, did you use this tool to solve it? Oh, no, I actually went over it with this one. And it's that kind of thing. It's like this, it's in the spirit of the CTF where, if you're having trouble with it, you might be able to like intuit a hint based on somebody else's description. So that kind of thing. But yes, we do ask that you don't post explicit solutions to the challenges in the Discord. That just kind of takes the fun. And at the end of the day, this is all about the fun of the game, right? So that kind of takes the fun out of it. So we ask that you don't do that. But yeah, within your teams, within DMs,
Hey, it is what it is. No, fantastic. What about you, John? Most surprising moment or concept?
Oh man, there's there's just like so much to talk about or things that we could dive into. I have loved the duality because there's a certain dynamic of hey, us maybe reaching a lot of the classic capture the flag culture and community, and then what is like Huntress and hey, what we do, typical audience and community that are managed service providers, small mid-market business owners, and they're like the MSP players don't know what a CTF is, and the CTF players don't know what an MSP is, and it's lovely and wonderful, and it's so cool
Right.
to kind of help merge these worlds together. And some pockets here and there, of course, bleed into each other, but we tried to bring out some challenges that are a little bit more appealing for those security practitioners doing this for the industry, for their work. And today's release, especially, was with that alongside Microsoft 365. And we were trying to think, hey, how do we get a sandbox environment or like a safe, secure, and yet quote unquote hackable M365 tenant, trusting that to 8,000 players all at the exact same time. So we tried to do a couple of hijinks of, I don't know, maybe staging a safe read-only environment where you don't quite as easily see how you authenticate an access, but you still get thrown into it. And it's been kind of cool to see that both succeed and fail in its own ways. We maybe had a hiccup this morning trying to get the solve or the deploy start button come to life, but we're able to hot patch those in the moment, and at least seeing people in the environment in a dynamic thing is kind of neat and very, very cool. So I do like to see those new innovative things that we are trying with stress testing CTFD for running a game a month long.
We're pushing this thing to its absolute limit, and we're in a lot of ways building the airplane while we're already in the air. And so this morning was kind of an example of that, where we realized, oh, there was kind of an edge case, corner case scenario that we hadn't accounted for, where a challenge would not display the start button correctly, and so we had to kind of figure that one out on the fly. But that's just part of the learning, what the CTFDE platform can do, and how we're pushing it to the limit by doing a month-long one. It's been fun.
I was gonna say, I like your analogy of building the airplane in the sky. Like, that's actually been all the LOL challenges that we've created. And actually, if you want to get really technical, some of my challenges were submitted, I think, September 29th, and we kicked this off October 1st. So yeah, like we are kind of building some of these in the sky, and we're like, oh wow, we've got a pivot here, we've got a new opportunity to learn here. It's just making, I think, us better as well. It's a lot of fun doing this though.
Yeah, we got a couple people in the chat that are asking. They say, hey, halftime, I haven't even started yet. Is there still time for people to join, register, and do the challenges?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to dance with that a little bit more, Matt. But without a doubt, hey, the game is open and available and running throughout the entire month. If you hadn't had a chance to jump in just yet, look, there are already a hefty amount of challenges and more on the way, but you can register at any point. You can play at any day or month for here in October. And then I think after the game ends, at the close of Cyber Security Awareness Month, we might still leave the infrastructure up for a couple days or maybe a week so folks can still play and get those flags, have some fun, learn something new.
Fantastic.
Yeah, somebody in the chat just called out too. Like, you can actually still start now and still win the competitions.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Good.
I think that's the one thing that we've should also communicate on this as well. Like, these are dynamic scores, right? So if everybody solves all of the problems, then it goes to who solved it first. If not everybody solves all of the problems, then obviously the one that does wins. So it's anybody's game at this point, even on the last day.
Outstanding. We spoke a little bit about the different challenges. Matt, we were talking about what goes into challenge design. Love to hear a little bit of your philosophy and let everybody know what goes into creating a challenge.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of writing code, erasing code, rewriting code, pushing code. I kid. So I mentioned a little bit previously that like good CTF design is a lot like good game design, and good game design is a lot like good puzzle design, right? And so I bet every one of us in this call and maybe every one of us in the audience have like done a puzzle or maybe played a game or played a video game where it was poorly designed and you came up against some kind of puzzle you had to solve. You didn't have all the pieces. It didn't really make sense. And this is the key, when you put the puzzle together in a poorly designed game like that, your reaction is not, aha, I got it. Your reaction was, are you kidding me? And like that moment right there is kind of something we try to avoid, because a well-designed puzzle will allow you to take the pieces, research, and put them together. And then when you finally put it together, you have this moment of like, yes, I did it. I outsmarted the puzzle. And so that's something we're trying to avoid. So in broadly speaking, CTFs have kind of a vibe to, it's a very unscientific term, but there's a vibe to CTFs where it's kind of like wacky. Ooh, here's a fun little challenge binary. Yeah. Oh, look at all the thingamadoos, and you got to do the. But then like, so at Huntress, we're bringing that a little bit more in line with like what a Huntress threat ops analyst might see on the endpoint by giving you things like malware samples and PCAPs and logs to look through and little bits and pieces of tradecraft that actual threat actors might be carrying out on the endpoint. And so there's like, we tried to design, like the philosophy of the Huntress CTF design was a lot more like, let's build challenges around actual threat tradecraft, puzzles that have to do with putting you in the shoes of the analyst, the malware analyst, the endpoint analyst, the person in the SOC that looks at an alert and says, oh, I got to go, analyze this. And so that was kind of, there's a little bit like, that's the main course in the CTF. The spice is still that wacky spirit of the CTF where we've got little one-off challenges. The challenge from yesterday, I wrote, you had to play rock, paper, scissors with a computer that could read your mind, right? Like that is the kind of like wacky CTF stuff that's in there. But but like John said, the challenge today was an M365 tenant that you log into, you access and enumerate with AAD internals. That's all stuff that threat actors would be using against an actual Azure tenant. So we're trying to get a good balance between the wacky CTF stuff, but also putting you in the shoes of the analyst. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job with that. Things are still kind of, they've got that little spice, that little flair of CTF fun, but they're like, at the end of the day, you're going to be solving CTF challenges that you're like, wow, I can kind of apply that in an actual DFIR scenario, or I can apply that in a malware analysis scenario. That's really what we're trying to do. If we can do that, I think we've done our job.
Outstanding. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that this is their first CTF, right? And so they hop on, they log in, and they do as much as they can in their browser. They do as much as they can with the tools that they have on their laptop. But there is a point where you have to probably have some type of lab setup. Maybe it's a VM, maybe it's a computer you use specifically for CTFs. What would you recommend for people to use and set up for their lab for CTFs and things like that?
Absolutely. So I want to start by saying one of my friends who is playing the CTF right now mentioned to me in private, he was like, man, I've never done a CTF that required me to have like a Windows malware analysis lab set up to do the CTF. And I'm like, that's amazing. That means that we're pushing you outside your comfort zone, So yeah, this is a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about maybe for those who have never done any kind of work in the blue team space in terms of malware analysis or DFIR or anything like that. Yes, we do put in the challenges that because some of these challenges are built on or heavily inspired by actual malware samples, it's a good idea to have a lab environment to set up so that you can go through the analysis steps inside of your lab and keep your nice production work laptop safe from any kind of infection. And that's also important because, if some kind of alert were to trigger on one of these CTF challenges, we don't want to put you in a position where you now need to explain it's just a game. It's nothing actual, going on. But,
right.
John has defanged, John and I and everybody who's done these challenges have defanged legitimate malware samples to bring you like some of the closest, to fidelity to true tradecraft that you'll see. A malware analysis lab, I mean, there are lots of different ways you can set this up. You can set it up locally with virtual machines. You can set it up in the cloud. At the end of the day, I think one of the simplest setups would be to grab yourself any kind of hypervisor that you feel comfortable with. You really want to set up two environments. You'd want to set up something that's running the Windows operating system and probably something that's running a Linux operating system. And my recommendations are that you look into Flare VM which is a set of installation scripts that go on top of Windows to give you all the tools for malware analysis that you need, and Remnux, which is a pre-built Linux distribution specifically for reverse engineering and malware analysis. You put those two VMs in their own separate network space. They can only talk to each other. And there you go. You've got yourself a malware analysis lab. And that would be the recommended setup. But at the end of the day, it's really about, hey, have a safe place, a safe VM, a safe cloud instance somewhere that you can drop these malware samples to slice them and dice them and inspect them and dissect them, that you won't be risking any of your production equipment. If you can do that, at the end of the day, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, I love that. Would you two, Alex or John, would you add anything else to that?
I can add another spin on it, if I may. Just maybe balancing with the developer and architect and creator perspective, because you're totally right. And that, like, look, there are a lot of folks that are going to play this, and it's the first capture the flag game that they've ever seen or heard of and got a chance to tinker with. So we did try and do our best to pour in a lot of easy or fundamental or warm-ups challenges, like a little bit of, hey, one-step solution, something that you at least feel some momentum if you solve and can start to understand, hey, now I can kind of keep cruising onto more complex or intricate tasks. And it's funny, when we try to solicit engaged feedback, there are a lot of folks that say, hey, now there's too many, there's too much beginner and basic friendly stuff. But it's a balancing act, because look, we're running this thing for a month long. We're only halfway through, and we still want to keep giving folks some breadcrumbs and pieces to move on with. But I don't mean to keep rambling, but when you said, like, hey, how can we help curate the environment for them in case they don't have a lab environment set up, in case they don't have their virtual machines or things created? I don't mean to keep beating the dead horse with this Microsoft 365 environment one, but that was just an interesting one to try to curate. Because, look, we wanted to get folks into PowerShell to play with this cloud environment. And I thought, well, I need folks to get logged in, but how do I give them that access without having them, like, knowing user credentials to be able to just log in on their own? Because they might vandalize or do horrible, crazy things that would beat up the environment. So we thought, well, let's get them into a web interface so they can interact with the APIs of Microsoft 365. And we thought, okay, PowerShell could do that, but not everyone is going to just have AAD internals or know how to set it up or to play with it or some of the other ingredients necessary for this. So we thought for a while, we'll slam it into like a web terminal. I'm not sure if other nerds and geeks are familiar with like GOTTY or WETTY, stuff to like create a command line within your web browser. That wouldn't work all that well in different browsers, and like Firefox versus Chrome versus Edge. So eventually we just said, like, all right, let's trust folks to play with SSH or Secure Shell. And I don't mean to get too nerdy, but it's fun to find the line of, hey, what can we do to make things approachable for people? And at the same time, what can we do to make sure that people learn something and go research and go understand something new?
It's a fascinating, like, architectural engineering behind the scenes. So everything John just described is an engineering architectural challenge to overcome, because we're putting on a stage production, right? And everything from the front, viewing to the front, should be just like something you'd see in real life. But if you view it from the side, things are much more, one-dimensional, right? So that's kind of like the thought that goes into engineering a challenge where the players, all they have to do is enter into this one specific area, and then they have the tools necessary. So we don't need them to install AAD internals or any of the attack frameworks that you'd use against Azure. Fascinating engineering behind the scenes architectural stuff that the team has pulled off. And it's just, I get really geeked up about it, thinking about how much work has gone into this.
Yeah. Also too, just,
go ahead, Alex.
Sorry. Yeah. You mentioned too, like, anything else as far as like my side. I'm more of a developer leader, right? I'm less of a security expert and a hacker, or a true hacker specifically. So for me, I'm just using devices I don't care about, or VMs I don't care about, that I can just throw away or discard quickly, like my work machine, obviously. So just disable all the antivirus, you'll be good to go.
Very cool. One thing I wanted to mention, as you're talking about the behind the scenes of a challenge like this, I'm sure there are a few folks that are looking at this like, I could do this. I could spin up a 30-day CTF challenge. What goes on behind the scenes? A little bit of the architecture, the work. What goes into it? Because we know it's not just the challenges, right? The challenges are just a piece or a component to the challenge itself. It has to have infrastructure. What goes into a little bit of that? And anyone can take that question.
I'm waiting for who's going to jump in.
Look, this is all you, John.
All right. So the challenges are the food that gets served at the restaurant, right? That's the content. That's the material. The CTF is the restaurant,
The kitchen.
yeah, and you lay the foundation, you set up the structure in the walls, you make sure that there are fire hazard stuff here and there. I don't want to get in a soapbox, but that look, so it's some no secrets. Hey, we like to be open and transparent with what we do. It's Google Cloud Platform kicking up a boatload of Kubernetes, hey, bells and whistles and doodads to try to fan out accessible instances so that we don't have to worry about players vandalizing and breaking things and replacing flags and ruining the experience for others. Because there is, again, another balance of look, you're hosting a hacking competition. You're telling people to go hack stuff. And then when you start to say, no, don't hack that. You can't hack that. It doesn't work. So it's weird. Again, look, no one's going to read stuff. And that's just an accepted fact. So we try to, get the information out, make this guardrails for the game. And people will try creative and innovative things, which we want to encourage, but we also don't want it to break the experience. So I don't know if that answers your question there, Chris, of what all does it take to put it on. But thankfully, hey, we've tried to have this go around a couple different times. Maybe this is the first iteration where we've ran it for a month and trickled out challenges over time. But that's just how we all keep learning. Even not just us, not just you players, maybe working through challenges, but us hosting the game and trying to create and curate some of this. A lot of learning lessons for us too.
Absolutely. I got to ask, right? There are some folks that are deep in this thing. They're trying to win. They want to know, is there a little nugget? If they're watching right now, is there a little nugget that you could give them about the next 2 weeks of challenges? Each of you, is there something, a tidbit, a teaser, even a small piece of advice for folks going into the second half of the CTF? Let's start with you, John.
Ooh, thank you. Because I will say, and this is totally singing your praises and fanboying a bit, but Matt, I'm super duper happy that, hey, you jumped in the team, and I'm glad you're here at Huntress. And for folks that don't know, Matt started the week before the CTF was going to go live. And he's like, I'll make challenges. This is cool. Yeah, I'll build some stuff. And truthfully, because we were trying to go, hey, put this all together, building the restaurant in that analogy, that took a little bit more time than making the food and the challenges themselves. So I have been very, very grateful for Alex as well, and Adam and David and Jamie and others that are pouring in challenges. But Matt, I like to say, and I hope I'm not, making me picking sides or anything, but Matt has been a trump card because his Snake Eater challenge has been awesome. His rock paper
don't mention it. People are going to get so mad.
But the best part is maybe you'll see another sequel or a new iteration of those in the upcoming days. So if you've been having fun with some little bit more of that low level dynamic analysis and patching and manipulating and modifying malware samples, that's how we're going to turn the heat up, and we get a little bit more of that in new modern and hipster languages, if I may say.
I love it. What about you, Alex? Any little tidbit, whether it's about the game itself or even a piece of advice for everyone that's listening today?
Well, I just want to let everyone know that I'm never going to give them up, and I'm never going to let them down, obviously. Okay. So you have not seen the end of Rick. Rick is still around. He's still alive and well. I know people are still talking about that in the chat, but he is alive and well. The challenges that are the LOL challenges, I would like to remind everybody to, as we build these out, think about the things you've done in the past throughout the CTF. I'm not really that original as a person, so it's not out of the realm that I might reuse something or have a similar paradigm of something in the past. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss in number 4 when we released it, is that they were like, would I really have to do this again? And it's like, yeah, actually, if I was trying to hide something, I might be that level of redundancy to try to hide something ultimately. So never think about or never forget the fact that like we do try to make it interesting and challenging, but sometimes try the stupidest approach. And a shout out to the individual Noah in our Discord, by the way, who is like consistently given really dumb approaches, which were actually correct every single time. Like, this is what you need in a CTF. You need to say, like, this is a dumb solution. Is maybe that is the answer. And you know, that's just keep that in mind as you go through these. Like sometimes it really does take that level of ingenuity.
I love it. Last but not least, Matt.
So John really kind of gave my tip away. So I said it and I posted it and pinned it actually in the Discord, but I'll say it here for everybody again. When you take the challenges that are built by me, you're not playing a CTF, with a couple exceptions. I know I made you play rock, paper, scissors against a computer yesterday, but forget about that. For the most part, when you do the challenges that I made, you're not playing a CTF anymore. You're a malware analyst on mission to discover facts about a sample, document, identify what it's doing, and present the findings. And the flag happens to be somewhere in the array of those findings. Threats will evolve, and you have to as well. And so, like John said, I think the threat actors have been listening to the buzz around the CTF and seeing how people are solving their malware challenges and how people are identifying their key characteristics. And I think they're going to evolve as well. So yeah, play smart, analysts, play safe, and I think you'll be okay.
I love it. As we come to a close, I got to ask you all, Halloween is one of my favorite times of year, right? Same time as Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but I love Halloween. I love horror movies. I love horror stories. What is your all favorite horror movie, if you have one? Let's start with you, Matt.
Ooh, let me think. I think I just saw, yeah, you know, I think, favorite, I don't know about favorite, but like the Evil Dead remake, I thought that's kind of an older one, but like the Evil Dead remake was a lot of fun. I like horror movies that are not strictly just like horror movies. I like the ones that are a little maybe self-aware and a little more fun about it. Evil Dead kind of is one of those.
Yeah, I love it. What about you, Alex?
I don't know. You know, that's actually a really difficult question. I'd probably go with Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's not a true horror movie, but it's like really self-aware and hilarious movie overall. Like, yeah, I like the Saw series. I like the Scream series and Halloween series. Like all those are cool, but I don't know. Tucker and Dale versus Evil is one of the most unique horror films I've ever seen, I think.
I'd agree with that. You know, one of my favorites is Cabin in the Woods, and it's also one of those very self-aware movies. Very good, very fun to watch. What about you, John?
Oh man, I feel like I banned horror movies out of my life because I'm not good with that. But I think for some ones that and maybe not strictly movies, but these are some cool, fun, spooky stuff. If folks are familiar with some of the Jordan Peele movies, that Nope was one of them, and Get Out, they're like spooky enough and creepy and weird. And if folks haven't seen, I think it's a Netflix series, Archive 81 was a masterpiece. I'm super sad that they discontinued it, but Archive 81 is another cool tidbit if folks are looking for something to binge.
I changed my answer to Us now that I think about it. I totally forgot about Us, but Us is so good.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone that's watching, wherever you're watching this, drop in your favorite scary movie into the chat. We want to see what gets you and keeps you up at night. With that, I wanted to share that at the end of this month, we are going to have a horror stories webinar, and we're going to talk about some of the horror stories that we've seen as cybersecurity practitioners, but then also talk a lot about business email compromise, which my personal horror story has to do with a lot of business email compromise. So yeah, be sure to pop in and check that out. We'll tell a couple spooky stories and hang out. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know you have day jobs. You're also doing the CTF. If you have one final word for our players out there, what would it be? Let's start with you, Matt.
Play ball.
Play ball. I love it. John.
Thank you seriously for joining us. I know, look, we're only halfway through the month, but there's more on the way, and I am really excited to see all of your incredible solutions and write-ups and all the things that you've learned, and we can start to tell even more of the gory details and funny stories from us hosting the game. So we're excited to see all the success at the end of the month.
Fantastic. Alex.
I'm going to resonate what John said too. It's again a thank you. You know, the community has been overwhelmingly supportive, even when we have hiccups, and just overwhelmingly helpful overall. Like, it's been a great experience overall, and I appreciate everybody for what they're doing.
I love it. I love it. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this quick live stream to talk about the halfway point of the CTF. There's still time. Join the CTF, enjoy some of the challenges, join a team, and do as much as you possibly can to get that win. Don't forget about the webinar at the end of the month. We are talking horror stories in cybersecurity and business email compromise. So be sure to register for both. And with that, we will see everyone next time.
See ya.